Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So things are pretty slow right now in terms of auto racing after the Daytona 500. Generally, after these big events, usually news slows down quite a bit, and that's kind of what's happened this week. So I decided to take the opportunity to ask you guys what you'd like me to talk about. And I do that through my community tab here on my channel. So if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on stuff like that community tab where I'll post polls or I'll post memes or I'll post things like this where you might be able to interact with the videos and hear me say your name in a video, like several people are about to get. Interesting variety of topics today. I think you're going to enjoy this video. Certainly, there's probably a lot more stuff to talk about than I gave credit for just a couple of seconds ago. So let's get into it. Ryan Moore asks, any memories of Dale Earnhardt you have or how his death affected racing for you? So I remember the day that Dale Earnhardt died. In the morning, I'd actually gone to a friend's birthday party. And so I missed the start of the 2001 Daytona 500, but I came home around midway through the race. I remember the big crash with Tony Stewart going up in the air, and of course I remember watching the end of the race. And I think like a lot of people, especially I was 7 or 8 years old when that happened. You see the crash and you go, okay, yeah. I mean that there was no reason to think that there was anybody hurt. In fact, I think a lot of people would look at the Tony Stewart flip and go, holy smokes, that's the one that's the bad one. And I didn't even know that Dale Earnhardt died that day. I just kind of went back to my happy childhood life and didn't think about it until the next morning when I heard on the radio that it had happened while I was eating breakfast before going to school. So that was definitely, it wasn't a fun day at school, I can tell you that. Everybody was like consoling me about it because, of course, everybody knew that I was a racing fan. And, it was very sad. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Dale Earnhardt, it's because there's so many people now who weren't even alive in 2001, much less fans of racing in 2001. And so the idea of not having a driver like Dale Earnhardt around or having a driver like Dale Earnhardt die, that was certainly a shock. There's no doubt about it. And it was sad. There's no doubt about it. It's weird to kind of think about that, especially considering there's a lot of younger viewers on YouTube, a lot of YouTubers who are currently very large in producing content who never saw Dale Earnhardt race. I mean, I think I remember specifically watching the 2000 Winston 500 where he won his last race and going, holy smokes, this is an amazing race. And not a lot of people can even say that they saw Dale Earnhardt race anymore. And it's crazy. That's the crazy thing to me. So I definitely, I guess, appreciate the fact that I can have memories of a Dale Earnhardt era of NASCAR. But at the same time, man, it's changed so much. I mean, that moment, too, the death of Dale Earnhardt, changed the sport forever. Certainly from a safety standpoint, for the better 100%. From a cultural standpoint, it brought a ton of mainstream attention to NASCAR racing, even more than it was already kind of generating. And in a lot of ways, I think that the death of Dale Earnhardt kind of lit that spark, turbocharged that mainstream popularity that NASCAR was already experiencing and just shot it over the moon. And in a lot of ways, the NASCAR boom got so big that we're kind of seeing now the end result of it, where a lot of the casuals who came in, who not only jumped on I'm watching because of the legacy of Dale Earnhardt, but they would jump on the Dale Jr. bandwagon. That's part of the reason we had Junior Nation come around. So many people who were so passionately invested in Dale Jr., that was because of the death of Dale Earnhardt, and so many of the people who came into the sport around that time were very, very much invested in that storyline. So it's interesting. The death of Dale Earnhardt in that 2001 Daytona 500, it's going to be studied for years to come because it really does have a lot to do with the rise and fall and leveling out of NASCAR, no doubt about it. Andrew H21, who will be surprising, good or bad, this IndyCar season? So I thought about this a little bit. One name stands out to me that's either going to be really good or really bad is Felix Rosenqvist. He's moving away from Chip Ganassi Racing. He's going over to Arrow McLaren SP, and I think expectations are going to be very high for him, especially personally. And he's also going up against a very difficult teammate in Pato O'Ward. I think that's going to be the car and the driver I will watch to see if he has a good season or a bad season. Because I think a lot of people judged Oliver Askew very harshly last year against Pato O'Ward. I think we're going to see how does Rosenqvist fare in that same environment, a driver who has more experience, race wins under his belt, and also wanted to get out of that shadow of Scott Dixon. Well, now he might be in the shadow of Pato O'Ward. How is he going to handle that? That's the car and driver I'm watching this year. Brandon Cascade, do you think Logan Sargent eventually makes his way to IndyCar? Yes. So if you guys don't know, Logan Sargent, a lot of people have as a very highly touted American F1 prospect, but he is dropping out of European racing, at least for now. He was running in F3 last year, almost won the championship, was looking at F2, and then decided just in the last week or so that it's too expensive. There's not enough return on investment going to F2, so he's exploring his options in sports cars and possibly road to Indy. So yeah, I definitely think if there's not a European opportunity that suddenly opens up or a major sports car racing opportunity for Logan Sargent, I think he will eventually find his way to Indy cars. He's got a very similar story to so many of the drivers that are very good right now: Joseph Newgarden, Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta, Ryan Hunter-Reay. All these American drivers who just can't quite get to Formula One, but are obviously talented enough to be in Formula One. Logan Sargent, I think, is going to be right there with them within the next couple of years. That would be my prediction. He's highly, highly touted in the industry, no doubt about it. Mostly Automotive. Your prediction on who the third IndyCar engine supplier could be and why? I'll be 100% honest, and I'm going to explain, probably do a further video about this, but I don't think there is one coming. And it's ultimately down to IndyCar's formula is not attractive enough to manufacturers. Why that is, there's a long list of reasons, and I need to think about it a lot harder before I get into detail. But I think in one way, IndyCar's technical regulations are very tight. That's why Ferrari didn't come. They're tight. They were so tight that they weren't even thinking about doing hybrids until Porsche told them no, because they weren't doing hybrids. So, we've already seen two manufacturers that would have been game changers, say no to IndyCar on the basis that the technical regulations weren't open enough. And if IndyCar continues to treat their manufacturers like they are supposed to be sponsors rather than competitors, which is to say they need to stop looking at manufacturers as cash cows. They should really treat them almost like drivers in the race, competitors, not partners. But they're never going to do that because they're reliant on that money now. The way the business is, they are now reliant on Chevy buying a set amount of advertisements on a race or a set amount of title sponsors for a race so that their business can continue. And for many manufacturers, I don't think that's attractive. I think that, if they do want to come, they either want to do their own stuff or, and by that I mean build their own stuff or build something different than maybe a twin turbocharged V6 with a hybrid. Or they just want to show up and compete and they don't want to have to buy a bunch of advertising space. And IndyCar has created a very small box, and they found that Honda and Chevy are willing to be inside of that box. But the problem is the box is very full right now, and I don't think there's going to be anybody else entering that box. Justin Collins, Hildebrand doing Pikes Peak in IndyCar. Thought a video would have happened already. The reason a video hasn't happened already, and I certainly think it's a big deal, no doubt about it, is because there's really not a lot of details out there. We don't know the team, we don't know the engine supplier, we don't know the sponsor, and it's not officially been announced by Hildebrand yet. It's only on the entry list for the Pikes Peak Hill Climb that Hildebrand is apparently going to be attempting to do it in a modern IndyCar. Once some of those details come out, I'm certainly going to do a video about it. I may even try to go to Pikes Peak, depending on the timing in the year, just to see that run. If Ryan Reinbold's running it, maybe I can swing something, because I do know a few people at that team to go cover that. But yeah, that's definitely on my radar. Don't get me wrong, because I think that's batshit insane that he's doing that, and it's awesome. I would be very excited to see how he stacks up in the IndyCar against some of the purpose-built Pikes Peak cars. And certainly in the past, Pikes Peak used to be, the hill climb, by the way, used to be an IndyCar points-paying race, believe it or not. So it's awesome. I can't wait to find out more details about it. Jesse Mullen, dating myself, but what do you think would have happened if Tony Stewart had stayed in IRL? Would he have eventually won an Indy 500? Would he have been as big a star? So yeah, I think he would have won an Indy 500. I think he should have won an Indy 500. I mean, ultimately, if he'd stayed in the Indy Racing League, I think he would have been a huge star. No doubt about it. Would he have been as big as he was in NASCAR? No. But I think he would be a legend in American open wheel racing. The unfortunate reality, though, as much as it's touted that how great it was that the IRL existed so Tony Stewart got a shot, ultimately you just developed him to go to NASCAR. So in reality, the one success for the IRL, which was touted as Tony Stewart, ultimately ended up just going to your competition. It's a shame. I wish John Menard and Tony George and a few other people would have come together and said, you know what, we got to pay this guy, because ultimately, since 1998, you know how many IndyCar races Tony Stewart has run? 2. 99 Indy 500 and the 2001 Indy 500. When he went to NASCAR, he didn't come back. It's a shame. John Pemberton. Doug Bowles was on the Indianapolis News this morning. Set decision on fans at the Indy 500 will be very close to race time. Yes, I heard that. They're making the big la 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 about the 100 days out to the Indy 500. I'll be excited when my butt's in a seat somewhere. I know, it's tough, because I have heard from people very close to the situation that it's 50%. That's a hard and fast 50%. Contrary to what they may be saying publicly, that's where the aim is. That's where the arrow is pointed. That's what they're working towards. I'm worried. I'm not going to get my hopes up, and I would say if you're a fan with tickets or maybe planning on getting tickets, don't get your hopes up. I think you should prepare to go to the race, no doubt about it, and you should be excited if you want to be. But make sure, and maybe I'm saying this to myself, make sure you mentally prepare yourself for the possibility that you're not going to be there on May 20th or May 30th. I almost said May 26th. I think that was last year's date. Or maybe it is May 20th. I don't know. In the end of May, prepare yourself for the possibility that you might not be there, and be ecstatic if you are. That would be my advice right now. Dylan Steininger, not motorsports related, but Wentz to the Colts thoughts. Okay, I'll do this really quick for the non-motorsports fans. I'm a little bit nervous, but Carson Wentz has proven in the past that he is not only a serviceable quarterback, but has the potential to be elite. So if Frank Reich, who has worked with him in the past at the Eagles, can pull a miracle off, get him kind of back in the mental state to be a top-of-the-line quarterback, I think he could really help the Colts quite a bit. The Colts, as a unit, as a cohesive unit, were a very strong team last year. They could have beat the Bills in the playoffs, and look how far the Bills got. And the Colts, generally speaking, match up pretty well against the Chiefs, which are far and away the best team in the AFC. I think if Wentz is a better piece of the puzzle than Rivers was, I think the Colts could go very far next year in the playoffs. Brendan Saul asks, where would IndyCar be today if the split never happened? So, obviously, this is a question that gets thrown around a lot, and I'm not going to go too far into depth, but I think it would be in a similar place to NASCAR is. I think it would have had a very, very high around the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s, but it would be tapering off right now. Now, how much it would be tapering off, who knows? That depends on how many mistakes would have been made. Obviously, CART would have been running the show for the most part, with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway being a separate entity. At what point, because there were still tensions. I mean, it's not like the split not happening wouldn't have suddenly got rid of the tensions and some of the egos and all that stuff. So I think there still would have been mistakes made. They just would have been maybe made in a different way than they ended up being, and also a different way than kind of NASCAR has made some of the mistakes. But I think at the same time, they would have been susceptible to some of the mainstream crap that has kind of gotten into NASCAR and kind of ruined it. I think what would have happened if Nextel would have become the sponsor of CART? Would there be an IndyCar World Series chase? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could have happened if IndyCar racing had been super mainstream in the 2000s. Josh Elder asks a question that a lot of people ask. The new rules about Le Mans penalizing drivers for going too fast. So that's not Le Mans. It's not World Endurance Championship. It's not IMSA. But the Le Mans Cup, which is a LMP3 GT3 race, it's a support series to the World Endurance Championship, is going to be penalizing drivers that are classified as bronze drivers in a driver rating system. And if they are as fast as the drivers who race in the silver category, the bronze drivers will be brought in for a drive-through. If that sounds confusing to you, that's why sports car racing isn't big mainstream. Quite frankly, I think sports car racing has gone way overboard trying to make things equal. Auto racing does not need to be complicated. Write some rules, let some cars show up, and throw the green flag and let's have a race. I think that the fact that we're trying to give everybody a trophy, we're trying to make every car equal, we're now trying to make drivers equal, or at least put them into pigeonhole. It's all garbage. It's crap. And I think racing should move away from this kind of stuff. Simplify. And if an old fat dentist can't get a goddamn trophy at the end of the race, who gives a crap? You don't want him in the sport anyway, as far as I'm concerned. I'd rather watch a race with 12 cars that's actually legitimate racing people than a race with 40 with a bunch of scrubs and wankers out there because they're going to have 5 different classes where they give everybody a trophy. Yeah, screw that crap. Sorry. Z-Red Whirlpool asks, what are your thoughts on Mazda's exit from IMSA? Ultimately, the writing was on the wall. As soon as they cut back to one car, it's like, yep, that's obvious. They're gone. There's also the rumor that Multimatic will be building the Porsche LMDH car, so that would probably, Porsche's not going to play nice with another manufacturer. They'll probably have the exclusive rights to the Multimatic chassis unless there's something significant in the pipeline that I don't know about. So it would seem to me that Mazda was not in this for the long haul. It's a shame because I do enjoy the Mazdas. I think they're the best looking and best sounding of the DPI cars. But there's a lot of manufacturers coming into the sport. And, some manufacturers just leave eventually, and that's kind of what's happened with Mazda. I'm excited to see how they do the rest of the season. Hope they get a couple more wins. Why not? And finally, the Pure Gamer 18 asks, what effect will Jimmie Johnson have on IndyCar? Will he increase TV viewership or look like he's stealing a seat from another worthy driver? Well, first of all, I want to address that second point. No, he's not stealing a seat from a worthy driver. In fact, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, he's giving a seat to a worthy driver, at least in the Indy 500, to Tony Kanaan. There wasn't going to be a fourth Ganassi car without Jimmie Johnson. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a net positive, and there really isn't any net negative to Jimmie being in IndyCar. Chip wasn't going to go out and hire another driver, and if he was going to have another driver, it was going to be another paid driver, and quite honestly, Jimmie Johnson does a lot more for the sport than some paid driver does. I do think Jimmie Johnson will increase the TV ratings for IndyCar. As far as I can tell, anytime I talk about Jimmie Johnson and IndyCar in the same video, the views are pretty high. So yes, there's a ton of interest for Jimmie Johnson. There's going to be a ton of interest to see how he does. There's going to be a ton of interest if he fails. But ultimately, it's a net positive for IndyCar. There's no doubt about it. I do think that Jimmie Johnson is a huge deal. I think Romain Grosjean's a huge deal. I think Scott McLaughlin's a huge deal. There is a huge potential for IndyCar to capitalize on a lot of this stuff happening right now, but it's going to take some promotion. They can't just rely on Grosjean, Johnson, and McLaughlin being the only reason. You got to convince the people to stay when they're checking out your product, and you do that not only with a good on-track product, but a good base of content around to engage people further, teach them about the sport, teach them about the drivers, all of that stuff. I hope it happens because, again, IndyCar's in a great position to capitalize from this, but they have to do the work to make that happen. Okay, so that was fun. Got some things off my chest. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to leave a like on this video. And if you got this far, you should definitely subscribe to this channel because you clearly enjoy listening to me yak on. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport content, and I will see you in the next video.